hopefully somebody might stick their hand out that little thing.
Thank you very much. We're on. So that one, yes, thank you very much. Of plan, and you'll see this on the back on page 13. Of the document. To ensure the annual report is visible, it will be put on our website. So I formally move the recommendation that Cabinet approves the 2023 annual report and executive summary for publication and dissemination, which is on page 11 of the report. And do I have a seconder, please?
Don't need a second because it's cabinet.
Right.
But otherwise, very good.
I shall slap myself on the wrist.
Good. So I just acknowledge the hordes of people watching.
That the broadcast slips out, I think, in the
improvement programme. That is now starting to show dividends. Obviously, it's always a challenge. Obviously, there can always be negative things to look at.
lost you after the first couple of sentences and picked you up just as you said, and finally. But otherwise, that was really, really helpful. And as you said, touching on the kind of real life impact of some of that around public health there, which is so integral to what we're trying to achieve. I will come back at the next cabinet with a formal report to officially rebrand the on-demand transport as Matt's Bus, and we'll put that to Neil's department, and we'll see see how that goes. Maybe not. Really helpful. Tracy, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if I dare risk this. I'm not sure my dialect's as good as Matt's. I'm going to work from the exec summary because otherwise we'll be here all day. So my focus is around pages 21, 23. Anybody that's interested in following it. So for children and families, our work has been busy, shall we say. So in children's centres, young people's centres, the work there is absolutely thriving. We've now embedded
happy to present the management accounts for the 2022-2023 financial year. Annual budget report for the year, which was reported to full council in February 22, was prepared against a backdrop of continued uncertainty and risk following recovery from COVID. Risks were further compounded following the invasion of Ukraine and subsequent increasing levels of inflation. Given these risks, it's been important to closely monitor the financial position of the council throughout the year, with regular reports to the corporate leadership team, to myself, and to the cabinet. I can report that there was an underspend of 11.8 million against portfolio budgets in the financial year, 4.4 million of which related to the adult social care and public health portfolio, and a further 4.7 of which related to the economic development and asset management portfolio. The main reasons for these variances are set out from paragraph 7 in the report that you've got in the agenda today. Considering variances against the central items such as interest payments, capital charges, government grants and transfers to reserves, the total county council underspend for the financial year was 1.6 million. At the meeting in February of 22, it was anticipated that general fund balances would remain unchanged, but given the outturn position, it's proposed that the council's general fund balance is increased by £1.6 million to £36.9 million to help fund the significant and continuing financial challenges that face the council over the medium term. Despite the difficulties faced by the council, 90 million was invested into the capital programme during 2022-23. Majority of this expenditure related to school improvement projects and to providing additional school places, as well as in investing in the condition of the county's highways infrastructure. If I can draw attention to the appendices in the report, they give further details on the outturn level of council reserves and allocations that have been made during the year from the contingency budgets. Also, Appendix E and Appendix F provide an update for two key areas of our financial governance. Appendix E sets out the final position against the 22-23 potential indicators that were provided and approved as part of the budget report to Council in February of last year. Appendix F provides a review of the Council's Treasury management activities for the year to the 31st of March 23. The significant point from these appendices is for members to note that the Council did not undertake any new borrowing during the year, and in fact we were able to repay over £10 million of debt last year while still investing in our services. Council's pre-audited 22-23 statement of accounts was published on the Council's website on the 31st of May in line with a statutory deadline, and I should add at this point Leader, we're in a minority of councils who met that statutory deadline, and these will be presented to a future Governance and Ethics Committee meeting on completion of the annual external audit, which is currently underway. It should be noted that there are still significant risks and uncertainties associated with the current environment in which local authorities are operating, both in the short and the medium term. Ongoing one-year local government settlement received from the central government restrict the authority's ability to plan into the medium term with confidence. Alongside this, the continuing high level of inflation affecting our residents are also impacting on the budgets and demand for services in the short term. Further risks and uncertainties were set out in the budget report to full council last February and are articulated in this year's budget monitoring report. I just put on record my thanks to Nigel and to his officer team who put this report together, and who I say are in a minority and having met the statutory deadline. So I'll move the recommendations, Leader. Happy to answer any questions now or later in writing.
Thanks, Richard. Really grateful and worth highlighting. Well, reiterate that. Thanks to Nigel and the team. Worth reiterating that we are in a relatively really positive situation. Actually, look around the country and some of the many challenges that many councils all over the place of all different kind of types of councils and different demographics, people are struggling to get to the place that we are in with that balanced accounts. And the budget process, I think last year was one of the best that I've been involved in terms of the scrutiny and the openness and the way that we managed that process to get us to a position where we are, we have that not just immediate but kind of medium term stability financially, and allow us to work through the transformation work and everything else we're trying to do to improve services. Not everybody's in that position, and certainly not everybody's in a position where they're not borrowing but paying down debt whilst doing that, and still being able to invest in very significant capital improvements around the county as well, not least things like school places and whatever that are massively important to our residents. So Keith.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I think we should really be proud of the fact that we've been able to reduce our lending by £10 million. That's quite significant, particularly as in the last council meeting, we've put additional money into moving to Top Wiggy without having to borrow as well. So they really just show the strength that we're in at the moment, where a lot of councils, particularly within Nottinghamshire, will be very pleased to have the situation we're in. Some of them are in quite dire straits in terms of where they are financially, and if I was them, I'd be very worried.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, and worth drawing out that comparison. You say look around the country, look even internally within Nottinghamshire at different councils within and just over the border that are really struggling, and we are in relatively a very positive position. Was that hands, Matt, or are you just looking inquisitively in Keith's direction? just a round of applause. Very good. All right. Anything further, Richard? Or are you happy? Okay. All right. In that case, we'll refer to recommendations for things just to note the report. All those in favour, thank you very much. We'll come back to you, Richard, for further exciting financial detail in the financial monitoring report.
Okay, well, just to update members on ICT to start with, they have now got the live broadcast up and running, so we are being followed by 10 people.
Winner.
So, welcome everybody.
Can we have the previous agenda then, and I can talk about the...
Make the most of your significant platform.
Your podcast, Bruce. I don't have a lot to add to the monitoring report. I'll just point out this is period 2. It follows on neatly from the previous item. There are underspends and overspends across parts of what the council does because it's a complex organisation, and we look to make up any overspends elsewhere across the organisation through the year. This is period 2, and we're working hard to get a handle on where there are overspends and to make this up during the course of the financial year. But I'm happy to answer any questions on the item.
Thanks, Richard. We've touched, as you say, on the financial position in the previous item, but as part, as you say, of that budgeting process and starting to look ahead to next year as well, manage both in year and future expenditure as we dig through that big piece of work that we do all year, every year. Nigel is always delighted about it. Anything further to say on that? No, in which case, all those in favour of noting that report, we obviously get regular, thank you, that's unanimous, regular updates to Cabinet on those, and we'll pick up any challenges in the future if and when they arise. Now it comes to the final item on the agenda, which is the outcome of scrutiny review around consultation and resident engagement. Boyd.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to start by thanking my Vice Chair, Glyn, unfortunately can't be here today, and also Councillor Pringle, who is here, and the contributions made by the Labour group to the review, and obviously our group. It is a shame that when the invitations do go out at the beginning of these reviews that certain opposition groups, the Independent Alliance, they don't even reply to us now. So it's not a decline to the invitation, but they're not taking part. And unfortunately, that means that when we've done our working group and we go to my committee, we do get certain members trying to rehash what we've already spoken about, and it would be appreciated if they could actually take part in the task and finish review process. So that's done. I'd also like to thank Isabel to my right for all the great work that she's put in. And part of the review, I think Mike will agree, was the contrasting styles of presentation. We did have in one of our meetings, we had a presentation from children's and then one from adults, because they were one after the other. It was the contrasting styles. It was great how they both work with their various audiences. It was great. So the purpose of this report is to inform Cabinet of the recommendations that have arisen from the task and finish review that was undertaken by my committee on the Council Consultations and Resident Engagement, and refer the recommendations to the Cabinet member. The recommendation is set out on page 376 of the report, and that's for you, Bruce, to take on and bring back to Cabinet if you could. Thank you.
Thanks, Boyd. And worth saying that since the last election, one of the priorities of this administration has been that ongoing resident engagement, how we have that, not just occasionally asking them a question on a formal thing, but how we have that ongoing two-way conversation with the public as well, which I think is really important, and about how we bring ourselves closer to communities in that sense. So grateful for the work of the Scrutiny Committee and bringing these forward. Some of them, the recommendations, I think, particularly around the budget consultation, we'd taken on board already and started that process earlier. And hopefully we can have more engagement now that we are more practiced in bringing some of that forward, I suppose, given that we've had a one go round it. And we'll work with you and the committee to make sure we get that right. And Bruce will bring a report back in the autumn. Is there anything you want to say on that, Bruce?
Yeah, just really to make a point, I'm not going to get involved in the tit for tat argument that has been floating around the council for many, many years, that our consultation is not up to scratch as far as some other consultations that are held within other authorities across the area. The fact of the matter is that consultation costs money, and therefore you've got to be very careful that you don't spend large quantities of money trying to get a small number of people to take part in a consultation. It is about trying to ease people into that space as cheaply as you possibly can to be able to achieve enough people to respond, so that it is statistically of use to this council. So I will take on board the recommendations from the Scrutiny Committee, and we will look at putting forward a review and an improved process to improve the number of people that consulting. If you look at our statistical partners, we're not doing too bad at all, but that's not to say we can't do better. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Chris, do you want to go?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just an observation, really. So we've now had a year since we transitioned from a committee system to a cabinet system, and obviously a lot of work went off behind the scenes, particularly from the monitoring officer and the legal team in terms of that transition and setting up new practices and procedures for this council. Scrutiny is such an important part of making sure that system works, that the executive just don't go off randomly making decisions without that objective cross-party scrutiny looking at the way in which we function as an authority. And I just particularly wanted to echo actually the thanks that Councillor Elliott has given to Councillor Pringle, because Mike, you always put your hand up as the deputy leader of the Labour group. You always involve yourself in scrutiny work, played a significant part in the constitutional governance review work that set up the cabinet system in the first place, and that continues to review those processes as we make sure that there is that sort of smooth implementation, and that we've got it right, and that there are occasions when we need to tweak it. So my personal thanks to you. And I suppose just also to echo Councillor Elliott's observation, we have two opposition groups on this authority. One opposition group is a responsible opposition group who actually takes part in scrutiny work, in task and finish groups, in cross-party working to try and come up with a system that is effective, that works and delivers for the people of Nottinghamshire. And we have another opposition group that fails to participate in those task and finish groups. And then, of course, we see a grandstanding at full council invariably, or indeed at committees, because they are unhappy with the proposals that we've come out with. The reality of it is there's a place to engage with that to make sure that we get the right result. We don't always get it right. We accept that. That's why we welcome the opposition's input. We welcome their constructive involvement in those groups. And again, just my thanks really to Mike Pringle in particular, but to the Labour group as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. So, reiterate that we had obviously independent groups stood outside this building with gaffer tape over their mouths after full council last week, saying they'd been silenced. And when we do have these opportunities for them, they don't bother to show up. And that's important that the public are aware of that, because when we get these stunts and things, as you say, around full council and the things that make the press behind the scenes, they're not actually engaging in any of the work that they are asked to engage in. And I think it's important that that's on the record. Neil.
Thanks, Leader. Just really touching on all those comments that have just been made. I was just wanted to highlight and observe the fact that scrutiny isn't always about criticising and complaining about things. such an important part of it is the policy development side, and that's demonstrated by the working groups, the task and finish groups, where there's the opportunity for all parties to contribute to the developing of policy, rather than just always throwing grenades or whatever. So it is so important that I think all the parties be seen to be working together to develop policies, and that is the best way to be constructive for the benefit of everybody in Nottinghamshire.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neil. In summary, then, we'll take this away, as Councillor Lawton says, and we will come back to you with a improved version of this that takes on board as many of the comments and recommendations as we can. Two reports in the pack on this. One that is the original report to Overview Committee, and one that is the one we are considering today, recommendations to receive said report and for the Deputy Leader and Transformation team to take that away and bring it back to the next Cabinet meeting. Have all those in favour of those recommendations? Thank you very much. That is unanimous. I think that draws us to the end of today's exciting instalment of Cabinet. Apologies to those 10 people at home who have stuck with us. Is it still 10? 8 people have not stuck with us till the end. And Nigel in the room is one of them. Very grateful. And grateful also to the IT guys behind the scenes for trying to keep us on track as far as possible. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you again.